Let's have a look at the fourth passage. Now this talks about cities. It says that, in cities, the frenetic energy of crowds is feared and fetishized. So we fear the crowds also, and at the same time, we have an excessive admiration also for these crowds. So the author talks about the scenarios in which fear, comes to the fore. Then how it is fetishized also, that also the author talks about. So rubbing shoulders with strangers is considered both a pleasure and a pain of urban life, right? So both these two opposing views are always present. The pandemic temporarily disrupted this because people wanted to stay away from each other, right? So in fact it was thought that after the pandemic more and more people will probably move to the suburbs, but that was temporary only, right? Because we have now again seen that the residential property prices are at an all-time high. There are new demands to build more apartments, so it was just temporary. Then the author says that social scientists have long struggled with the question of density of crowds. To them, they can actually represent an engine for immigrant assimilation, economic empowerment, a site of diverting from the standard, a space for cultural freedom. So they look at the city as something positive. At the same time, in much of the world's poorer nations, living in the sprawl, okay, living with a lot of space, that remains a mark of affluence. So they would view the densities of cities as something negative, right? Density is something to be transcended. So the author then says, is there an alternative that lies somewhere in between these two opposing views? That does not look at cities as just positive or just negative. So the author raises certain questions that can we have another kind of density with close-knit communities, sustainable places where car use is minimized, consumption is decreased, and people can walk out their front door into a unique and enlivening environment. So the author raises these questions towards the end. This is what this passage is about. 15. Which of the following statements about municipal government and police departments is most likely to be true? Okay, so let's see where they are mentioned. So, in cities, the frenetic energy of crowds is feared and fetishized. Fear takes hold when we hear the great din, the great noise of stampeding masses running from a shooting, a fire, or a collapsing building. Municipal governments and police departments feel it too. Feel what? This fear that emerges, that takes hold when all these bad things happen, right? So because they are required to manage crowds during demonstrations, concerts, sports events, right, even public holidays. So they feel this fear too, this fear of stampeding masses, right, inspired by stampeding masses. So they have to deal with the task of preventing crimes from taking place, not related to the discussion. They are equally affected by the fear fetish binary that city life represents. But in our discussion, we were talking about fear, not fetish. They are equipped to handle all sorts of contingencies. We don't know. They feel the fear of difficult situations that result from frenetic crowds. That is the closest. That is the answer. Easy question.